Alright guys, today I wanted to talk about a comic that came out a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I'm not very good at keeping track of time. Try and ignore the fact that the natural lighting makes it seem like maybe I'm a fucking ghost, and like now I'm just haunting the earth to do comic book reviews. Um, oh, a cloud has passed by, so now it's gone normal. Thank you, fucking Mother Nature. So Predator Life and Death. You can see you got an engineer ship and Predator there. Um, this is written by Dan Abnett and the art's done by Brian Albert Thies, which is how I've chosen to say that last name. And this is part 1 of 4, but at the bottom here it says the start of a new story cycle in the tradition of Fire and Stone. So if you didn't watch Fire and Stone, read Fire and Stone. The way that worked out, it was like you'd get Prometheus and it'd be like issues number 1 through 4, and then you got Aliens, which was then another 4 issues, and then Aliens versus Predator, and then Predator, and they're all 4 issues each, and then there was just like one last like mega issue at the end of Prometheus Omega. So here it says 1 of 4, so I guess that's what they mean. They're going to be doing the same thing. And on the inside, yeah, it says part 1 of 17. So that's how that is. Anyways, for the comic book stories, like if you don't kind of regularly read these comics, the way that the comics are, they're kind of like well, like the Aliens versus Predator movie or Alien Resurrection. They're sort of like that, where they're kind of cool, but also kind of sort of shit in some ways. I guess it really depends. Like, do you not like Aliens versus Predator or Alien Resurrection? I don't like those movies, but they have parts in them that I do like. So it's like I can watch them, but I sort of fast forward to the parts I do like. Like like with Alien Resurrection, I have like one favorite scene, and then I have like just other stuff that I think is kind of cool. And so it's like that with Aliens vs Predator 2, sort of. And so I can read the comics and I'm like, well, this is kind of dumb, but for the most part, I still like it just because I'm a big Aliens and Predator fanboy. So I have to like all the things. But yeah, I can move a little fast paced, like with Aliens versus Predator, how the facehuggers latched onto whatever those 2 people, and then all of a sudden you had like fully grown Xenos already running around. That's kind of how the comics are. They kind of get right to the action, so they don't really have the same kind of pacing uh, as the films do. And their storytelling, it can be a little, I don't want to say outlandish, but I mean like, okay, like with Fire and Stone, without going into too much detail. In Fire and Stone, what happens is a scientist takes some of that black goop from Prometheus and injects it into a synthetic, like Bishop or David. And then that changes the synthetic into some weird new life form, I guess we can call him. And he has like a telepathic link with xenomorphs. So now, I don't know, he can like control them like dogs, sort of. Or at the very least, they don't attack him, like they're friendly towards him. I don't know. So it's got stuff like that, and that's kind of the way the comics go. And so you kind of have to be willing to accept that sort of thing, because for the most part, the comics, it's like it turns into one big fuck fest, because it's like Xenos versus Predators versus Engineers. You might have to kind of like get used to that sort of thing. Okay, so this story takes place approximately 43 years after the events in the motion picture Aliens, and just over a year after the events in Fire and Stone. And I find that a little odd, but I'll get to that. So right away we see the ship that they're on. This is a rapid response combat ship, Hasdrubal. It has a personnel of 33 people, and it's orbiting LV-797. And the reason that I find this interesting is because it tells us that the Marine Corps apparently has rapid response ships, like, well, specifically rapid response combat ships. Like, they need soldiers somewhere, like, right away. Like, so I guess this is different than normal ships, and maybe these ships are faster. And it obviously doesn't go into detail about it, but to me, that's new information. So I thought that was interesting. So it starts with I guess this is going to possibly be our main heroine, Captain Paget, and she's talking to a Mr. Lorimer, who is something of a mysterious fellow, I guess, kind of only giving the answers he needs to give, maybe not very forthcoming, as it were. And so he informs Captain Paget about what it is that her men are going to be doing, or the reason why they're there. And what happens is that Weyland-Yutani has contracts on different planets, and what they're worried about is that other companies, namely Seegson, which you'll be familiar with if you play Alien Isolation, which is a fantastic game. Everyone should play that. I highly recommend it. That's really an amazing game. Anyways, well, if you play that game, you know that Seegson company is a lot like Weyland-Yutani, but except they're in like big time financial trouble. So it makes sense that a company like Seegson would maybe do some illegal activities, and that's kind of, they're shady. Although Weyland-Yutani is pretty damn shady themselves. But what Mr. Lorimer tells them is that this planet here, 797, which he calls Tartarus, which I actually find funny because Captain Paget basically calls him out on the fact that he named it after a place in Greek myth where souls are judged and those found wanting receive punishment. So I don't know. He tells them the names are auto-generated, but like that's not a good omen. So, well, basically, he's saying that he's worried that Seegson is going to land on the planet, strip it of as much resources as they can, and leave before Weyland-Yutani gets there, so that when Weyland-Yutani is going to develop it, well, they have less resources to work with, and it just makes it, well, less worth it. So I don't know. Sounds like a illegal activity to me. So that's pretty much what the Marines are there for. It's technically not supposed to be a big deal. If anything, they're supposed to get there, land. If there's pirates, they'll just be like, hey, the game's up, get the hell out of here. And then that'll be that. I doubt it's going to be that simple, of course. Anyways, and then we're kind of introduced to the Marines aboard this ship, and they kind of seem like your pretty standard stereotype tough guy Marines. We just get let in on the fact that maybe they're a little trigger happy, especially I guess their Vasquez of the team, female soldier named Freebody. She's more of a shoot first, ask questions later type of gal. And apparently there was an incident on some place called Lightholm where instead of, I guess, dealing with things peacefully, they dealt with them a little bit more violently. So we just get told that that's the kind of people they are. So anyways, eventually they land on the planet in 2 teams, and immediately we can see that predators are already here. So I mean, of course, that's the name of the comic, but basically the Marines are being watched from the moment they land. So one team, they find a camp, and it is definitely like a pirating resource stripping operation, and it is Seegson because there's Seegson tech and gear all over the place. And then I think the Marines find some footprints, but these footprints seem pretty big. It doesn't specifically like zoom in on a footprint, so I can't tell you exactly what it is they're looking at, but apparently signs of something kind of big. And supposedly, as far as any animals in the area are concerned, there's really not supposed to be anything bigger than a raccoon. So I'm assuming it's like a big old either Xeno or Predator footprint. So it's like, well, what the hell could have made this? So that's a little strange. Anyways, as the second team is investigating a little further, they see some damaged equipment a derelict ship. And again, Free Body being a shoot first kind of girl, she fires at it, and eventually a survivor comes out, and he introduces himself as Lawrence Good, and he seems really shaken. He actually kind of seems not all there, and he's basically telling them that they shouldn't have come here because this planet belongs to them, and now they do too. So I guess like the Marines belong to them too. But he doesn't say who them is, and I guess that could be anybody. That could be xenomorphs. That could be predators. It could be engineers. He doesn't actually clarify. And while this is going on, the other team ends up coming across one of the big, gigantic engineer ships, and at first they're like, well, what the hell is this? And why couldn't we see this from orbit? And, all that kind of stuff. And then while that's going on, the second team of Marines is just moving through this jungle. You can tell that the predators are basically hunting them, with the thermal vision, which looks pretty cool, even in comic book form. And as one as one soldier's complaining about being bit by all these, I guess, intergalactic mosquitoes, all of a sudden, Fatum, shit hits the fan, and this guy's head pops like a balloon, and all the Marines are firing all over the place. I mean, I'm sure they're not entirely sure what they're shooting at, probably just firing in a general direction or all directions. And when they stop firing, they kind of think maybe they hit something. They can see predators glowing in the dark blood, and then all of a sudden you get guys getting gored, predators, gauntlets, and so on, and the predators just wreck these guys, and it's a big total massacre. It's just a total ambush, and the comic ends right there with just two predators just standing triumphantly over their kills. Now the thing that I think is a little weird is this takes place a whole year after the events of Fire and Stone, and yet no one knows what any of these creatures are. That's the thing I think is always kind of strange about these comics. Like, they always kind of start out the same way, with Marines just showing up thinking like, well, this should be some sort of normal, mission, and then always being like, what the hell is this? What the hell is that? What are these things? What do we do? It's like they never have any prior knowledge to engineers, their ships, xenomorphs, predators, any of this stuff. But it's just like, does no one wonder about that stuff? I mean, this takes place 1 year after Fire and Stone, where a whole shitload of Marines died, and technically there were some survivors, but a whole shitload of Marines die. Ships are missing or destroyed. I mean, does the Marine Corps not investigate those deaths or find out what happened? Because you think that they would end up finding evidence of, well, at the very least, some other alien life. But I guess not. It's always the same way with a large number of the Marines being ambushed. So I don't know. It's hard to say where this comic is going to go because it doesn't really end on anything kind of mysterious or anything. It starts out pretty standard. But I obviously I like it. I like the art. As far as the characters go, I like Captain Paget, I suppose, just off the bat, and I guess Mr. Lorimer seems pretty interesting. Chances are he probably knew exactly what they were getting into. He seems like a hardcore Weyland-Yutani company man, and he's probably he's like the Carter Burke of this story is what I'm predicting. So I think he knew what was going on down here. I think the contracts, the planets that Weyland-Yutani has contracts on, I think they specifically have contracts on them because they probably already found these engineer ships or things like that. And that's specifically why they put contracts on those specific planets. And the reason that they really want to get there is not so much because they give a shit about Seegson taking any of their resources, but because they don't want Seegson to get there and find their alien shit and then possibly make off with it. So I think all of these Marines were set up, and I hope that something comes to that in terms of just like Burke, I want Mr. Lorimer to get his just desserts. So I'm interested in following those two main characters at least. Outside of that, I don't know. Just because I am a fan of the franchise of Predators, I'm of course going to keep with it. But if you think that this sounds interesting, you can go with it too. Again, the stories can get kind of out there because they have to find reasons for predators and marines and xenomorphs and engineers to all end up in the same place to have a fucking party together. But for the most part, I think it's really interesting. The reason I like these comics is because they kind of flesh out the universe more than the movies tend to do. And so getting to learn more about the Marines or other kind of ships they have, other kind of tech they have, like they have these like these flying like hover bikes and stuff. And so getting to see that sort of thing is why I really like it. And again, I just really like the art style. I like the look of everything. I like the way the inside of the ships, like all the floors and walls, are all blue or bluish tones. All of that I think is really nice. So I'm going to keep with it. Maybe when issues 1 through 4 of Predator are done, I'll do a recap on that. And then I suppose, again, when all 4 Aliens and all 4 Aliens versus Predator, all 4 Prometheus comics, and I'll do a recap of the whole thing. But I would encourage anyone to go ahead and pick up the comic for yourselves and read it on your own as it comes out, because it's usually generally pretty interesting if you were already a fan of Predator. Um, so anyways, as always, I thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time, and I hope you are a little bit more interested in Predator Life and Death.